Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach, from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
That's my Y2J countdown. How was it?
Not as good as your Macho Man, but not bad. So, yeah.
This match, I'm excited to cover because it followed one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, which many believe should have been the main event. I think including these two competitors who looked at each other and said, we're fucked.
Yep.
So I think this could be fun to cover because, you know, how was the crowd reacting? Were they really dead? How was the build to this? Should it have been better than it was, but it was just snake bitten because of where it was on the card, or did it suck? I don't know. I'm really curious. So I think it'll be fun to cover this one. What about you?
Yeah, same reason. Like, this is part of the reason we had this on the list is because of why isn't it the main event, which we'll talk about. Or why is it the main event? Excuse me. Like, cause it's just weird, but yeah, it's just one of those, like, it's Mania season. You kind of have to talk about it. Cause there is an interesting story too around it, but for better or worse, but yeah, it's still kind of good stuff to get into. Yep.
Cool. I'm ready to jump in if you are.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So, as we mentioned, WrestleMania 18, referred to as WrestleMania X8.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the Skydome in Toronto. We know those Canadian fans are fucking nuts, and I say that in the best possible way. You know, love being in Canada, love being in the UK, so great fans. You know, this was the site of WrestleMania 6. We're back in stadiums, domes, which is great because we weren't for a while, but 17 Astrodome, which was arguably the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And then we're trying to top it a year later. We're in the Skydome, and man, this was a really, really good show. Jam-packed, 68,237 was the announced crowd, buy rate of 860,000. I mean, the show's built around icon versus icon, Hogan versus Rock. Obviously the interesting side note is Austin turned down the match. Therefore, that's where we got, the Rock facing him, but it all worked out. Dark match. Tell me about this. This is fun. Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Albert defeating Mr. Perfect, Lance Storm, and Test. Did not know that. Kind of interesting.
Sure.
All right, start off RVD winning the IC title over William Regal in 10 minutes. DDP is going to keep his European Championship in 10 minutes, defeating Christian. Maven is going to retain his hardcore title against Goldust when Spike Dudley pinned Maven. So I guess Spike Dudley became the champion. 3 minutes. What's the point of even doing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Kurt Angle defeats Kane in 15 minutes. Undertaker defeats Ric Flair in 28. That was an awesome match. We need to cover that sometime. I don't know if we have it on our list or not, but we can make sure to add it. Yep. Yeah, let's put that on our list. That was really good. Edge defeats Booker T in 13 minutes. Steve Austin defeats Scott Hall in 11 minutes. Billy and Chuck keep the tag titles in a 4 corners elimination match, defeating APA Dudleys and the Hardy Boys. The Rock defeats Hulk Hogan. Then in a 6-minute match, Jazz retains over Trish and Lita. And then
hell of a bathroom match, yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean, hate to say it, but it's right. And then The Rock and Hogan only went 16 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that match was way longer than that. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay. And then the main event, Triple H, Chris Jericho, the reason we're here. Jeff, storyline standpoint, how do we get to these two at WrestleMania 18?
Yeah, so you had Royal Rumble, actually. Jericho beat The Rock to retain the Undisputed Championship, where at the same time you had Triple H earning the championship to take on the holder of that belt, whoever by winning the Royal Rumble, eliminating Kurt Angle on that one. So actually had the next night you had Triple H interrupting Jericho during a promo that proved that he's worthy of the main event. So almost wonder like this far out if they were already like kind of thinking what's the deal here. But then you had it was kind of a weird angle here where you had Stephanie getting involved as well too, kind of playing the heel up a little bit. And so kind of saying that she was pregnant and wanted to renew her wedding vows, which was part of this as well too. And so and then going on Linda getting involved as well too, that saying that it was all an act and that there was an actor and that she wasn't really pregnant when they went in for an ultrasound. Like it kind of weird. But you had Triple H turning on Stephanie and attacking her along with Mr. McMahon when they were trying to renew their wedding vows. A terrible wedding. And so definitely would never happen to Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man on theirs. But yeah, the marriage over. And so you had really the kind of build up to this. You had Kurt Angle taking on Triple H with actually his number one contendership on the line for that one. You had Stephanie was the special guest referee of that one because Mr. McMahon, since he ruined the wedding, just kind of doing all this stuff. Angle ended up beating Triple H. It's like really kind of weird on this one, but how Jericho played into this one, that wanting to be her business partner, wanted to start working with Stephanie, kind of playing up that angle as well too. Using the divorce settlement as well too. Like just a weird storyline on this one of like them splitting up their things, and so Jericho taking what was her limo and things like just really weird. Like the dog was involved, just really weird stuff. And so what it really boiled down to though was, Triple H wanting retribution for all of how this had played out in the post-wedding and things like that. He was actually injured for a little bit too. It's quadricep, and so kind of dealing with that as well too. Of course, playing into some of the storyline, he kind of attacking that, so we all knew. And the lead up to that, he was hurt. He had the quadricep, so they were selling that on commentary as well too. That Stephanie getting pedigree, saving Stephanie with Jericho saving her. So that's one thing. While we were used to Stephanie being in Triple H's corner, as we're kind of listening to this and watching this one, you have Stephanie actually in Jericho's corner during this match, and really a lot of it, while he was the number one contender, the story was really just weird. And so, but hey, we got here. I guess that's the important thing, and we get this match. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Really weird. It really was.
We'll talk more about it during the match. So I have a question related to the build to this one. So, okay.
Sure. Yep.
WrestleMania 18, 3 hours and 18 minutes. WrestleMania 18, 3 hours and 18 minutes. Jeff, are you ready?
I got it pulled up. I'm ready.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
Woman, she's a graduate of Boston University. Let me just say, evil don't look that good, man. Can't be evil. Look at that. Oh, what a look.
Let's go, Jericho!
The Undisputed Championship on the line. Senior referee Earl Hebner
the crowd like they're doing, right?
And the big question here is just how
you get Triple H a towel there. Like Jesus.
The game's left leg. I believe that to be the big story of this match.
Yep.
And Jericho quickly looking to exploit.
I'll tell you one thing off the bat, I would have really emphasized Jericho coming home to Canada. I mean, maybe thrown him in some red and white tights, right? I would have really tried to like ham it up with them and get them behind him.
That's just a big one. Yeah, being in Toronto, it's kind of weird that they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have tried to make it like, again, you know, you kind of use like the Sami Zayn analogy, but just like, I mean, people love hometown stuff and it makes for a great crowd. So I would have done that. Observation number 2 is following the Hogan thing. And I mean, I know they planned on going like 25 plus minutes here. I probably would have started out like really, really hot, like, just because I feel like you'd have to, right? Like, I mean, you're going to have to just do something pretty remarkable in this match to be able to keep this crowd. So I probably would have, I don't know if I would have started, you know, kind of Triple H methodical. I might have started, let's just brawl and get the hell out of the ring. And, you know, I don't know. Those are two observations. So you talked about the build.
Yeah.
Question for you. Like, I just felt like, I'm just thinking like in this era, like there's just a lot of like complexity to the storylines and maybe I'd say overbooked. And the comparison I'd use is like, as long as this stuff has gone on with like the bloodline, it's not really that complicated. Like, right. I mean, it's a complex storyline. Jeez. Oh, wow.
Ooh, man.
Into the front row. Well, you talk about getting a up close and personal experience.
Wow. Jericho into the first row off the top turnbuckle.
Kind of landing on the I say guardrail, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, they're trying their best here. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like maybe like, I mean, you're the one that aggregates these great builds for us and do such a great job. But like, do you feel like sometimes, like, especially like this one, it's just almost like more than there needs to be? I mean, the build for Cody and Roman really wasn't that complicated. Great, but not complicated. Like, some of this just feels overbooked, overcomplicated, and I don't even know what the hell's going on, especially if I'm not watching every single Raw and SmackDown leading up to it. So I say all that to say I feel like they're doing a better job now than they did during this era. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely agree with you on the whole, like, you have to have a different match than what you had earlier, and you have to take that into account when you're looking at this. And so, yeah, I'm with you. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense why, and like us realizing it just as we were going through it, like that match was, say 16 minutes and this one's, you know, pushing 25. Like, I get, like, you know, okay, that this is how we booked ourselves. This is the story we're trying to tell, but like, and they are at this point playing up the Triple H quad angle as well too. Like, already we heard it on commentary. We heard it, like, we see Jericho going for it all the time too. And so why not play that up more than like some of this really weird stuff with, like, you know, the divorce and the family and like, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. But then also, like, you know, even for how many times have we been in a situation too where we say, hey, I don't think this, you know, like, this is the wrong main event, and the wrestlers agree. Like, a lot of times, yeah, you know, maybe the booking and like based on the crowd and kind of how like things play out, like it kind of makes sense how to lay certain things out, or you just have to do it a certain way. But like, were they really sitting around the table saying like, this match is bigger than Rock Hogan? Like, is that really, like, it just doesn't, it almost doesn't make sense to me. Like, you know, who in that room thought that was the best idea? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you got Stephanie getting involved now. She's up on the apron. Ooh, man. It just took a huge, Stephanie taking a huge spear.
She asked for this.
No, she did not ask for this. She's not in this match. She's clearly supposed to be at ringside.
Okay, for her to rip his eyes, stick her finger in his eyes, and find there.
What are you doing?
Triple H, be careful.
Triple H going to pedigree Stephanie.
She's going to try to pedigree Stephanie.
Don't pedigree the woman. Jericho with a missile drop
That was
kick.
a poorly timed spot too. Like it was about 5 seconds where Triple H saw him and didn't do anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just, again, this just feels really convoluted. So, I mean, like Stephanie's attacking Triple H.
Yeah, the crowd.
I just don't think anybody wants this. I mean, honestly, like I just don't think anybody wants to like boo Jericho,
Everybody's sitting.
cheer for Triple H. Him
Yeah.
and Stephanie aren't together, but we know they're together in real life. I mean, that just seems like a stupid thing to do, right? When you know people are together in real life, but you're trying to like either not acknowledge them on air or just like
Yeah.
make them feud with each other. It's kind of stupid.
And this was like 2002, like, yeah. And so this was really a point where like it was hard to cover that. Like it wasn't like in the 90s or something like that where you didn't know, but you knew that like this was not, I say, of course it's not real, but like, you know, you kind of knew that how this was playing out a certain way. Like just, it's odd. Yeah. And I will say from a technical standpoint, like the match itself, like Jericho is doing like he's focusing on the leg, like he's doing exactly what he should be doing in trying to take out Triple H's quad. Like he has it taped up. And so at least from that perspective, like the match itself is at least making sense.
Yeah. The
Still
move
working
that
on
Bret
that.
Hart made famous here, the figure 4 on the turnbuckle. I can't remember who he initially did that against. Maybe it was Patriot. Maybe it was Taker. I'm trying to remember. It was during that era. I can't remember who it was, though.
I feel like we've asked this before, and I feel like even Jericho himself has answered this. Will Jericho have a 6-month run? Will he come back and kind of go out as a WWE superstar versus AEW?
Has to, right?
I think so.
I do too. The only thing is he does seem pretty loyal to TK, but that might just be because he's working for him. But I mean, I think he'd understand if he said, hey, I want to do the Hall of Fame and do one final match. Got some of Jericho's best matches pulled up ever here. So,
sure.
Top rated match ever. What do you think it was?
Oh, his top.
When I tell you, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
With The Rock?
Omega.
Oh, shit. In New Japan. Okay.
Match, remember?
Yep.
That match was awesome.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was very good. Yep. Okay. What else you got on the list?
Anarchy in the Arena. It was one of those just crazy, like 5-on-5 matches they did in AEW.
Oh, was that the stadium?
No. But it might have been empty arena. It was 2022.
Oh, I'll look it up while we're sitting here.
Okay. Benoit Jericho, January of 2001 in a ladder match. Another one that we should cover was that Benoit Jericho versus Austin Triple H. I think it was the Raw match where Triple H tore his quad.
I'm pretty sure we have that on our list. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's 4 3/4 stars. That looks pretty awesome. Here's one I don't remember. TLC match with the Dudleys, Benoit and Jericho, Christian and Edge, and Jeff and Matt Hardy.
Where was that at?
May of 2001. It may have been a Raw. I vaguely remember it, but it was a TLC match.
Weird to just randomly be on a we've got some of those matches actually coming up on the show of just like these random Raws and things like that where, you know, it shouldn't have been as good of a match as it was.
Yeah.
Triple H. weird, like all these good matches. When was his like? What was his best WWE match then?
Against
That?
Benoit in a ladder match, 2001.
Crazy. Okay.
I think that was at a Royal Rumble. Yeah.
So they've really slowed this match down. Like I think part of it is now the leg injury is hurting you because Triple H not moving real fast, just kind of they're just not doing a ton here.
Let's listen to the crowd.
Oh, look out!
Okay, take a ride over. He's right in front of him. Folks,
What crowd?
And remember, this is the same crowd that was arguably, I mean, keep in mind, Rock, Hogan, 45 minutes prior to this was arguably the greatest crowd of any match in the history of wrestling.
Right.
Right? I mean, what's better? I mean, if you said what was the best crowd for a match in history, you'd argue. I think you'd argue it's that one.
It has to be up there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd argue the Austin KO match. I think the crowd for that was pretty ridiculous too.
Yep.
But again, I mean, there's CM Punk. John Cena in Chicago, crowd was great for that. But it's up there. So anyway, so you knew what this crowd was capable of. You knew how into it they were. So how does that? It's just crazy, right? Like how does that crowd literally a half hour later?
Yep.
Are they like this? Okay, so Triple H, pedigree.
Jericho going for the walls on the announce table.
He's going to drive Jericho's
And it's been reversed now. Yep.
All right.
And so Jericho reversing it, kind of flipping Triple H over onto the Spanish table. Yep.
What do you think of the Stephanie involvement?
I feel like I can already, like, just from the payoff alone, like, I feel like I start with a low payoff score on that. Like, I just, like, again, it's just one of those, like, icky storylines that you're like, oh, like, why were we so involved watching this? Like, I feel like this Mania, too, like, while, like, Rock Hogan was a big deal, this would have been I was very involved in wrestling at this time, but or watching, but I was much more involved at WCW at this time. I remember my parents, we would have some people over at the house and we would buy the pay-per-view, and it was usually at this point a WCW pay-per-view. And so while I get, like, Hogan, Rock, like it makes sense, but like this was not convincing me to watch. Like, well, I may have been back and forth kind of watching wrestling, but this was not a big seller for me. It just wasn't the way. Yep.
And I want to see two guys beating the shit out of each other. I don't want to see two guys beating the shit out of each other with, like, the one dude's wife pretending he doesn't like her, like, at ringside. It just doesn't. She's horrible in this match. They should have just kicked her out in the first minute. I hate having her there.
I'm trying to see.
Jericho. Triple H is screaming. He's yelling. Literally tears in his.
Got him in the walls. Yep.
Triple H just is not a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
He should always be. I mean, in this era when he was a full-time worker, I mean, I get later on babyface, but I mean, he's a heel. Ugh. Earl Hebner's your referee. So I don't think we've talked about this. Vince Russo said MJF has depth and Roman Reigns does not.
Mm-hmm.
Agree or disagree?
Oh, man. Say again. Roman Reigns has depth, but what?
MJF has depth as a character.
Okay. Yep.
Roman Reigns does not.
I just feel like this was, looking back on kind of what we've had, Roman Reigns has done more in regards to, well, he's definitely had more matches, but it hasn't been a lot of matches. But in regards to the storytelling, though, I have to give the edge to Roman on this. Like how, like all the bloodline stuff, like how do you not? Like it just, it's hard. Like, okay, like MJF is kind of, he's the one man show, kind of, he's done a lot on his own over there, but like the Roman is managing, 10 people in his storyline plus, all these different things, and plus Heyman, and like, I like MJF. I feel like the character isn't what it used to be. Like, I feel like now he's just an asshole that like is an asshole to be an asshole. He's not like a good heel character. He's just a dick. And so, which, okay, whatever. But so in regards to that statement, I disagree, because I think Roman is, at least you look at WrestleMania in the last, 15 months, it's hard to say otherwise. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Bryan MJF match, but like, whatever, like, okay. Sorry, it wasn't my favorite match of all time, and I didn't give it 8 stars. So sorry, internet, that wasn't the best match ever. But yeah.
So I'm gonna again. There's just more Stephanie. This is so stupid.
Get out! Get out! He's right. The referee disqualifies. Jericho. That's exactly what she's trying to do. Is that Jezebel? She has no business in there, and she knows it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, look at her face. Nothing but fun. And the game getting
I mean, so she's gonna get pedigreed, maybe, or Jericho's gonna stop it. I mean, people don't even really care about.
Wait a minute. Is the referee gonna allow this? I don't. Surely to God.
This is supposed to be like a big moment in there.
The game gets pedigreed. The princess.
No one cares. I mean,
they popped more for that than they did anything else in the match.
Yeah, but no one even cares about this. So he's pushing her out of the ring. All right, so I just think that I'm going to give it a Triple H chair shot to the head from
Chair
Jericho.
shot, yeah.
I'm just going to give it a TBD. And what I mean is I need to see Roman Reigns without Paul Heyman. Because what I suspect is that none of this bloodline stuff would be possible without Paul Heyman. And I think he's the MVP of all of it. I don't think it's Roman. I don't think it's the Usos. I don't think it's Sammy. I think that Paul Heyman is by far, remember, people were indifferent to Roman Reigns. Baby or heel. You put him with Paul Heyman in an end of SmackDown segment, and all of a sudden Roman's a made man as a heel. So I think this all is Paul Heyman. Okay. Yeah. That's my thought on it. So,
Jericho trying to find out the pedigree.
Triple H gets it. Oh, quick finish.
There you go.
It's such a weird finish. Like, okay,
all of it. Anyway, so what I was saying is, I want to see Roman on his own before I can answer that. I kind of lean towards MJF, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so Triple H, he's got both titles. This is a unification era, so he's got the big gold belt. He's got a winged eagle, updated title. Okay. This is it. I mean, this is obviously hindsight 2020. You should be ending the show with Hulk Hogan posing,
right?
Clearly, okay, and maybe even if you really had 2020 hindsight, playing Real American. So, anyways, you didn't know how the crowd was going to react. So that's that, man. All right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Initial thoughts.
Just weird. I feel the same way I felt after last week, where it's just like this, I want him to tell the story in the ring. And like, if you're taking it just that at its face value of what they did in the ring, it was terrible. Like, because of the involvement of Stephanie, that's really what this was. This could have been 7-8 minutes shorter had her not be involved. And at least it would have somewhat been okay stacked up against the Rock Hogan match. Like, it's just weird. And so, it really, like, these guys too, like.
But Jeff, aren't we saying that both matches were way too McMahon overbooked?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right.
Yeah.
But this one really bad though. Yeah. It just, and part of it too is like, and this should have been the end of it. But this feud continued for actually a couple more pay-per-views. You had The Undertaker getting involved with this feud. I guess in my wrestling universe, I want WrestleMania to be the end of something, not the start of something. Like, well, an end in the sense that storylines should be ending, because whether you're the coronation of a new champ and then you start something new. But like, for me, these storylines should be done. WrestleMania shouldn't be a stepping stone on some of this stuff. It should be the new chapter. So, but Undertaker interfering, actually costing Triple H the match at Backlash against Hogan. They ended up having a Hell in the Cell match at Judgment Day, which again, challenging the Undertaker at King of the Ring, but ended up losing with interference on The Rock. So really, like, that's not what I want. Let's tell a better story here. Like, it just, not what I'm looking for. So, yeah.
Too is like, compared to now, I feel like now we know how great these wrestlers are, and you get less gaga and bullshit. Like, I'm not saying there isn't some interference at the end. Like, I'm thinking of like that, Drew Roman, there was like, gaga at the end. I mean, I get that, like, but for the most part, I feel like you're just like, hey, we've got really, really good wrestlers, really, really talented athletes. So we're not going to overdo it with all this stuff. And they did then too, but I just feel like they overbooked some of these matches. Like, just let two really good wrestlers go at it.
Yeah, and they just didn't. So where we stack up on this one, Jericho was 4, Triple H was 10. The torch on this one, Triple H regained the title in an anticlimactic finish. Triple H and Jericho did what they could to wrestle a bit more enthusiasm out of the crowd, but it just didn't work. If Triple H and Jericho were able to follow the Hogan, Rock, and Flair Taker matches, they would have deserved MVP honors. Instead, it was too much to overcome. They had a solid main event match, but the crowd was burned out. It seems that Triple H and Jericho resigned to that fact also and didn't let it negatively affect their performance. It didn't drag, even though it went nearly 30 minutes, but it wasn't up to par with their previous matches, 3.5 stars. The Observer newsletter, one can argue that one can argue they had made the title match and the match non-issues and perhaps the world's worst title match build-up in Mania history. But even so, who could have expected such indifference? It didn't help that Jericho and Triple H wrestled an arena match instead of a stadium match. The smaller the building, the more realistic it has to be because the people are right there. In a stadium, most of the crowd is a million miles away. It is more about doing mannerisms people remember than subtleties of working over the leg and about showing personality. If it had been a medium-sized arena and someone besides Hogan was out there doing that exact match with The Rock, the Jericho and Triple H match would have been considered the best match of the show. But even by that standard, the match was probably the worst Jericho versus Triple H match that lasted more than 5 minutes of the seemingly dozens that have happened over the TV over the past 2 years. Triple H hit Stephanie with the pedigree. It got a pop, but a lot less than you'd think. Jericho hit Triple H with a chair, set up his own pedigree. Triple H had a pedigree for the pin and the win, 3 stars. So 3.5 and 3. Tom, what are you going with here?
Dude, I have this at like a 4.
Yep. I'm doing this.
I thought it sucked.
Yeah, I'm same as last week. I feel the exact same. I'm giving it a 3. Like, that's what I gave last week's. That's what I'm giving this week's. Like, it just, it's weird. Like, I wasn't impressed with what happened. It just wasn't good. I didn't enjoy it. So unfortunately, this is another 2 weeks in a row now. We've had matches where it's just like, man, like, I'm glad we talked about them, but also like saving the people at home having to watch for themselves.
Yeah. Really, really disappointing.
Yeah.
Really, really, really disappointing. I mean,
hopefully. Hopefully we got some exciting stuff coming up. Like, we got some good things coming, some different things coming. We're going to WCW. We got some out there matches as well too in the lead up to King and Queen of the Ring. So we got some good stuff coming up though.
All right. Well, as always, we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week on an all new episode of The Payoff.